What's going on, YouTube? I hope everybody is having a great week so far. If you saw one of my recent short videos, we're going to be going over the top 7 projecting fragrances in my collection. Now, these are all, fragrances that I've chosen personally, or I've heard people comment on in the recent years about how they're just too strong and they don't like the fragrances for that reason. Now, for me personally, with what we're paying for these fragrances and what niche fragrances are supposed to represent, I would much rather have a fragrance that is too strong that I have to spray less of than a fragrance that's maybe not strong enough that I have to overspray. To me, that's not very good value for the money, and I love all these fragrances here in particular for that exact reason. So let's just go ahead and get started with it, not waste anybody's time. No long intros on these videos, all unedited. Wall Street from Bond Number 9. It is a little bit of that hint of like dollar bills and freshly printed ink, but that's not what the fragrance is about. That's a very small part of it. I would say that Wall Street is a very green marine style fragrance. It's very salty, very edgy, almost represents like a stormy sea, ripping up the seaweed, washing it ashore. It's a very violent fragrance, if that makes any sense. And it's really the sea kale, the ozone, the vetiver, and the real ambergris that they still use in Wall Street. So thank God for that. Bond Number 9 hasn't changed anything. They're still using real ambergris in Wall Street, and forever may it stay that way because it's a great fragrance and I get a lot of compliments on it. But for some people, they just say it's too strong, man. So Interlude 53 from Amouage, that's going to fit the same category for a lot of people, just like with a lot of these fragrances. Some of them too strong, too polarizing. A lot of people that find the original Interlude or Interlude 53 too strong, they just simply go with the Black Iris if they still want a fragrance like that in their collection. The Black Iris, not Irish, that would be funny if they did make a Black Irish one, but the Black Iris from Amouage, that one is a little bit, cleaner, a little bit more wearable, where these are certainly a little bit more polarizing, a little bit more situational, but I do love it for that reason. The 53 is just very dark, smoky, sweet, slightly green, just beautifully blended. Love the DNA of that fragrance. Again, very situational though, so it's not something that, for a lot of people they're going to be using as an everyday scent. I wouldn't really say it's necessarily just for dressing up, but it is very interesting how Interlude 53 kind of mixes with your own scent throughout the day. It's going to smell different on everybody, just like a lot of fragrances do, but this one in particular, it's very developmental and you never go nose deaf to it. So if you like going nose deaf to fragrances and you don't want to smell a fragrance all day, a lot of these, especially Interlude 53, they're just not going to be for you. Neiman Lion from the House of Argos. Neiman Lion. Now, this came with a warning label from Christian Petrovic saying, not for anyone under 21 years old, not for inexperienced noses. Yeah, I can see that. Got like an animalic leather with a slightly, sweet but, dirty oud. Moss, citrus, very green outdoor type of fragrance, but it's also got sort of an old church vibe, like that smell of old, sweet, musty wood, probably coming from the oud in the fragrance, but very retro, very masculine. I've said it about Argos Neiman Lion before. It's one of those fragrances where you spray it on and you walk into the room and people don't even have to turn around and see you. They already know the man is in the room. It's not something that's a unisex fragrance. It's not something that you're going to have, women liking or enjoying. It's really just a man's masculine retro fragrance, and it's beautiful. I love it. But again, not something, signature scent or everyday worthy. So another one you could probably put in that category would be Royal Tobacco from Amouage. Now, again, one of the number one complaints I hear about Royal Tobacco from Amouage is that it's too strong, and I agree. But I love it for that reason. And I think the Library series for Amouage are done at like 25 to 30% oil concentration. Maybe someone can let me know down in the comments, but they do smell a little bit stronger than just the standard EDP Amouage fragrances. And that could also be down just to what they're using in the fragrance. Royal Tobacco seems to have everything in there if you go through the fragrances. It's got fir balsam, tobacco, musk, oud, licorice, Madagascar vanilla. This is just a very rich, heavy, beautiful fragrance. Probably my favorite tobacco fragrance. I actually even prefer it over Boadicea, the Victoria's Tobacco Sapphire, and that is another fantastic one. There's quite a few good ones, even Triumph of Bacchus, but you don't get as much tobacco in Triumph of Bacchus as you do the Royal Tobacco from Amouage. Rightfully so. If you're going to name a fragrance Royal Tobacco, it better be heavy in there and it better be well blended. So a lot of these fragrances that I've mentioned so far, they don't really have an option other than to project and to be strong because of the ingredients in them and kind of what the fragrance is meant for. But I tell you what, 40 knots from Xerjoff really surprised me. Just a light, fresh blue fragrance, right? Well, it is in some ways, but it also projects, and the longevity is just insane. The projection and longevity of this, incredible. I don't know what's going on with Xerjoff and all these. There's some people out there, they're saying it's either too weak, like Naxos is too weak, or Naxos and 40 knots are too strong. There seems to be two sides of that coin. It seems half the people don't think it's strong enough and it's been reformulated. This is a recent tester that I bought in the last year or two, and this thing is so strong, guys. It really is. I can see why some people may not like it. I've heard that about Octanez from Unique and Luxury as well, to where it's just too strong and too long lasting for a blue fragrance, but I get a ton of compliments on this. Projection is great. Something I only put like maybe 3 to 4 sprays on, maybe 5, depending on where I'm going. But certainly if it's that strong to your nose and you already own it, just spray less of it. And 40 knots for me, it did catch me off guard just because I did not expect a blue fragrance to kind of hit that heavy and last that long. And this one here, man, I love 40 knots. It's a great fragrance. One of my favorite blue fragrances in my collection. So again, I know a lot of people, that's their main complaint with 40 knots is that it's just too strong. And I'm kind of there on that side of that fence, but I love it for that reason. So Triumph of Bacchus, again, from the House of Argos. Beautiful stuff. Even if you have the EDP, this is going to work, just the same as the EDP, probably for the first 3 to 4 hours in terms of projection. And then the X-Straight is just going to surpass that and keep going, keep developing and keep projecting because of that higher oil concentration. But even if you have the EDP, just the way the fragrance is and the way it's designed and the notes that are in there, it's got no choice but to be heavy and project. It's got vanilla, amber, musk, tobacco, vetiver. It's got saffron, rum notes, peach, green apple, just a ton of stuff in here. A lot of heavy fragrance notes in there. So you would expect that from the Triumph of Bacchus, whether it's the EDP or the X-Straight, you would expect that to be a heavy fragrance. So beautiful stuff. One of my favorite ones. Again, even if you have the Eau de Parfum, projection is going to be pretty crazy on that for the first 5 to 6 hours. I do own the Eau de Parfum as well. I bought the X-Straight, just for some of the colder days or situations where I want it to last longer, and I know I'm not going to be able to reapply the fragrance. So having full bottles of both of them, wearing them side by side at the same time, the X-Straight does project a lot more, especially after like the 4 to 5 hour mark, but both are great choices. You can't go wrong with either one. Bond number 9, Dubai Amethyst. This is another one that in a lot of ways it kind of did catch me off guard. One of my best blind buys of the year. Looking at the notes, I knew I was going to love it. And then when I got the fragrance in, it did kind of catch me off guard because you do get some, beach vibes and fig and coconut from this. And it's really interesting because I wore it in the summertime and those notes were more prevalent. But now that it's 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit where I'm at today, I wore this morning, sprayed it on. Just a wonderful fragrance, very strong, very unique. And the projection on here is crazy. I mean, I've had this go on shirts before to where, if you're clean, you don't sweat in it, you put it back in your closet, you can smell it on your clothing for months. It lasts over 24 hours on skin. So again, like the Dubai series and the Library series with Amouage, I'm not sure if they're bumping up the oil concentration, 5 or 7%, or if it's just the type of ingredients that are in here. But this is beautiful stuff, man. You got tobacco in here. I believe there's rose. You got a laundry list of ingredients. They actually use ambroxan in here, which they've done a good job of using that. kind of blending everything together, but it does give you a little bit of kind of beach vibes to it. But now wearing it in the winter time, you do get a little bit more of that fresh, green, creamy, non-smoked tobacco in there. And Amethyst does have a very different tobacco note than Royal Tobacco and Triumph of Bacchus. And they've done a very good job of blending that and, you know, choosing the right tobacco note to go with it. Because if they use one of the heavier ones, this fragrance would just not be the same. It would just not be as good. So wonderful stuff. I really love Dubai Amethyst. Get a lot of compliments on it. And it's also a versatile fragrance. You know, after wearing it in the cooler weather, you could definitely wear it in cooler weather because of how powerful it is. It does change the fragrance a little bit, kind of like Bond No. 9 West Side, to where you don't get quite as much of the florals or the top notes of it, but it's still sweet, and you just get a little bit more of those base notes. So let me know some of y'all's top, you know, projecting fragrances in your collection. Let me know kind of what situations you wear them in, and maybe, you know, how many times you spray them, as opposed to, you know, some of the not so strong fragrances in your collection. But all these, I'm very careful about what situation I'm in and how much I spray them. If I'm in a confined room, you know, you want to have somebody smell you and have you smell good, but you also don't want to be offensive and choke out an entire room. So let me know again, you know, some of y'all's best projecting fragrances, and I'll be seeing you soon. Bye.